Hi deAston, sorry I can't be with you this evening. I thought I'd record my presentation so that you can't miss out on what I've got to say, you lucky things. So here I am, this is my Twitter handle, I'm Mrsartytextiles and my presentation is on making it real. Okay, so this is pretty much what I'm about. I guess it's what we should all be about really. It seems to be a key focus of the education sector at the moment. So I'm here, well, obviously not here in person, but speaking to you, to share a few of my experiences with you about how my students have got on and how I've tried to make learning that little bit more real and embed those employability skills into their learning. Okay, let's start really simple. Look for an audience. Try and look for a space, a place, somewhere for you to actually celebrate the students' work. Try and think of, might be really simple, somewhere really straightforward, somewhere in school, somewhere really comfortable for you, somewhere not too at your comfort zone. Where are you going to use as that space to actually celebrate the work that your students do? Might even branch out and look for somewhere in the local community, but that work needs a place, okay? I clearly have an art background, so I look for an exhibition space. Doesn't matter though, you don't need to be an art specialist to be looking for somewhere to showcase the work. Every student has really good work and of really good value to actually showcase and celebrate with an audience. It's up to you to try and find that for them. Right, this is a slightly different one. So it builds on the first suggestion of trying to find an audience. This is trying to get the students to react to the real world. Try and encourage them to have an opinion. Try and think about what they're going to do, why they're going to make it. Look at the wider world and actually get the students to react to it in their project work. How can you embed that within your scheme of learning? How are you actually going to get them to make those links and actually demonstrate something that means something to them, something they can get really, really passionate about. The example here shows the poppies, so clearly inspired by the poppies, the wave that was at the Tower of London, obviously before they actually came to Lincoln. So the students actually created the different clay poppies. We were lucky enough to get things exhibited in actual Lincoln Cathedral. It is one of my proudest moments, I have to say, for Year 7. After they'd only been with us at school for about 8 weeks, their work was on public display. Every single Year 7 had their work exhibited. But the project was far more than that. Let's be honest, it ticked a lot of British values boxes, but the students got so much more out of it. So they looked wider at the different artists involved, they looked at all the deeper meanings behind the project, they looked at a lot of sort of historical stuff as well, the stories behind the creation of their work, what it was for. You need to look for current events, anything that's going to spark that interest, anything that's going to get them interested and actually get them to start that conversation. I don't know, at the moment, probably Brexit, anything political, okay? Anything that makes that real connection, it makes them enthusiastic about that work. Okay, so planning for employability. This is something that a lot of students already get when they are in Key Stage 4, Key Stage 5 levels of their education, but why not start it that bit earlier? Any opportunities where you can engage with local employers, get the involvement of actual real business experienced people in the industry to come and talk to your students, anyone that to come and create projects, live projects with them, to set a brief, anything to try and push their imagination and push their creativity that little bit more within your subject area. It gives you that extra edge, it gives that added value to the subject. Every time we've done this, the students have bought into it so much more than actually just doing it for an assessment. The images on here show my textiles group that actually had a live project chucked at them on the first week of term when they started. They had a live project to create a selection of things for Doddington Hall. After just 10 weeks on the course, they actually had to go and pitch that and present it to the owner and the head buyer of the shop at Doddington Hall. They were, needless to say, they were quietly cacking themselves by their own admission, but you know, they got so much out of it, and on reflection, the week or so after, they were saying that they felt so much more confident now about what they were doing, how they were going to talk about their work, and it totally did set them up for university interviews and all that kind of stuff. So it might well be out of their comfort zone quite a lot of the time. That's exactly what they need. This is a bit of a random one. You just need to take a leap of faith with the entire process. So a lot of this, as you've probably noticed, it's me driving it. It's me actually asking the questions, trying to find the opportunities. It's exactly the same with this. So the students in this case they were doing some work. We'd set them a bit of a simulated brief to say they needed to create some illustrations for a set theme. Actually, some of them were really good. So I was a bit cheeky, popped a few bits on Twitter, actually sent a message directly to the editor of Waitrose magazine, and he actually took the bait and he invited us to do some work with them. So stuff grows from the tiniest, what seems like the most insignificant thing, and it feels like a complete waste of time, but just go for it. You need to sort of put yourself out there and try it. You have to have faith in your students and promote and push what they do, because you never know what happens out of it. So in this case, we had some really good students that were actually published in Waitrose Kitchen magazine. So it's really good, and year 8 students as well. So it was really good for their confidence. This one, the links to charity, totally similar to the idea of making the links with the employers. To be honest, it's so important to make links and support local charities, but also look for newly established charities. If you're quite savvy with the internet, you'll notice a few people popping bits and pieces on, pushing for support if they've tried to set up an organisation recently. So take that opportunity, try and think about how you could use that charity and put a slant on it for your subject. How are you going to make it relevant for your students and get them to buy into it from your subject's perspective? It's such a good opportunity for them to sort of link with the real world as well and see that they're doing something for some good for somebody else. The examples that we've done in the past, we've obviously from a textiles perspective, we've done the Dress a Girl charity where we've made pillowcase dresses for Africa. We've made the super capes that are pictured that were for refugee children so that they could have something that's a bit more portable and usable in terms of a toy when they've lost everything and not got anything with them of their own because they've had to leave it behind. So the students really got quite a lot out of that because there was a lot of different layers to the project, lots of different things going on. The other really quite nice element of it, to try and embed a bit of literacy, we got the students to write to Blue Peter, which they were all of an age where they were still eligible for a Blue Peter badge. So, and quite a lot of them, their following term, were proudly wearing their Blue Peter badges on their blazers. So that in itself just shows it works, and they totally bought into it. They loved it. Okay, so the last one really, it's quite straightforward. It's no secret that I'm a bit of a keen Twitterer, and as I've mentioned already with some of the other scenarios, that the key to it really is get networking and share the stuff. So it might well be that you're just sending a cheeky tweet to someone that's inspired your work, someone that you think might be interested in something that the students have done. Maybe you're trying to get in contact with them because you think that they might have something of value to give to your students. Whatever it might be, you need to just use and embrace the social media if you're not already, and use it as a professional tool. So the example that's on here is actually the artist that we were using as inspiration is a current contemporary artist. I chose that person on purpose because I wanted the students to not just look at like really dusty old sculptures that mean nothing to them, they can't relate to them. So I chose someone that's actually alive for a start. So they were looking at that, exploring her work, and I thought, you know what, let's have a little look, see if she's on Twitter. So, you know, we sent her some work. loved them. She absolutely loved the work that Year 9 had done. She wrote a blog about them, she gushed about them. Students loved it. They get so involved in it. I was able to share the little bits as they were being fed back to me, either on Twitter or through the blog. So every lesson there was something else that actually meant that their self-esteem was building every lesson. That is so important, and it really gets that buy-in. So you just need to think a little bit differently. Try and work out who your project could link to. Who out there on social media could there be that your work could link to? And then just be cheeky. Just take a punt and just contact them. Okay, so the making it real concept it's not rocket science. It's really quite straightforward. The 4 things you need to remember are: you need to plan really way ahead. Just look for opportunities everywhere, absolutely everywhere. But plan ahead. Don't plan something for next week. It's unlikely to happen. You need to try and think ahead, probably a good few months, at least a term ahead, ideally a year in advance of where you want something to be, and then make it happen. It's more likely to be successful that way. Get on Twitter, share things, network, try and share with other people, get ideas off other people. If the concept of Twitter scares you, I'm pretty sure that there's other people in this room that will totally endorse it and try and win you over, and also give you that support that you need to get you on board with it. Students, they're going to be excited about it if you're enthusiastic about it. If you are making that effort to plan your work and make it that little bit more engaging for them, that little bit more relevant, that little bit more real for what they need to do and what is relevant to them and their subject, then that's going to get them excited anyway. The last one, it's a common misconception that employers aren't going to be interested. You would be amazed how many local employers, local businesses, local charities actually are desperate for people to make links with them and actually do that little bit of work, whether it be a bit of an enrichment project for them, whether it be something that means that they can tick a box to say that they've done some work with education. I've always been amazed, actually. I don't think I've ever been told no. I've been told not yet, which again goes back to the planning way ahead, because you need to try and have that conversation, start stuff that little bit earlier to make sure that people can sort of accommodate you and your needs. Just try and think carefully about who you approach, but it's, if you're careful about it, you'll get there. And then the last point from me, I guess, thank you for listening to me. I'm very sorry I'm not here. I hope you enjoy your evening. And I'd love to hear what you guys get up to. So if anyone actually has any ideas and has sort of some epiphany moment of how they're going to do the making it real thing, send me a tweet, pop the little hashtag on. I'd love to hear from you. I'm happy to chat. Okay, have a good evening, guys. Bye.